Good morning, everybody. I'm Joseph Bradley from Amon Ross. I have a video I want to share with you today. Let's see what Spirit has to say. I'm on an 11-day trip to the North Kennel Road, and it's about Ross River. There's a town of about 100 people. It's about 254 kilometers north in the middle of nowhere, and there's no services on this road at all, and it continues in Northwest Territory, and you can continue on until you can't drive any further. The road is an old military road from the 1940s that the U.S. military built for an oil from the Northwest Territories through Yukon into Whitehorse. So the road's pretty rough, but once you get up to this area, the scenery is spectacular. The mountain behind me you can't really see because it's covered in cloud right now. It's a little bit of a rainy day. It rains a lot up here, but when you do get the day, it's worth it. It's absolutely spectacular. It's getting close to being fall up here, and it's a glacier mountain, as you can really see in the picture that well. There's a couple of glaciers in the center of the two mountains in the picture, and it goes up into the top of the mountain. So let's see what Spirit has to share with us today. There's a man that was going hiking. It's a nice day. He has a wife and two kids. He always goes hiking on the same trail every winter, every fall, I should say. But it is close to winter. It's a beautiful day, so he takes a light jacket with him, packs a light backpack, and starts on his hike. The hike takes him in the parts of the like in the mountain valleys. He doesn't like to go too high up because this time of the year is quite unpredictable. But he's quite confident this day, so he kind of starts going a little higher on the mountain. There's an awful snowstorm hits out of the blue, comes through the valley with lightning speed. He did not expect it. He's walking in the snow and gets disorientated. He's not dressed for this type of weather. It's just below freezing, but it doesn't matter when you're not dressed for it. It's just cold starts to sink in. It's so hard to see. He can barely see anywhere where he's going. He gets all disorientated and goes the wrong direction. He goes farther up the mountain. You can see the man struggling. The blizzard is relentless. It doesn't stop. Hours later, he starts to get so tired. He keeps falling on the ground and his hands keep getting in the snow. He doesn't even have anything to cover his hands with except his pockets. But every time he goes to fall, he has to put his hands forward and his hands get exposed. He is super cold right now. He falls again. He falls down on his back and he just yells for help. When you pan back, he just disappears in the snow. As far as you can see where the snow turns to rain in the valley, but there's still nobody to hear him. The man's so tired and weak, all he does is want to fall asleep. So he falls asleep and slowly gets buried in the snow. It shows his wife. She's crying. She's worried. She feels something is wrong. It's now 2 o'clock in the morning and he's not back. She's really, really nervous. The next morning she starts to panic. He's still not here. She tries calling him, but no answer. The phone is dead. Goes right to voicemail. She's super worried. She goes to police the next day after that. They don't do anything right away, so she goes and tries to go look for him. She only goes as far as the snow. She doesn't go any higher than that. She cannot find him. Time passes, and they start sending search parties out when he cannot find him. But again, he's now long buried in the snow, and winter is setting in. The snow is not going to melt in this part of the mountain until the spring. There's many nights the children and the mother cry, especially the mother. The children, they kind of get used to it, but they still miss their father. But then you see a man standing behind the woman, a man trying to get her attention and the kid's attention, but they do not see him. You see he is a ghost, a spirit. Part of his soul went to heaven and part of it stayed behind. This part that stayed behind, every time he tries to get her attention and touches her, she starts to cry. He notices this, so then he tries not to touch her, but he cannot help himself. This goes on until the spring. And he goes back to his body periodically, and he notices the snow is now melting and exposing him. The trails are pretty clear now, even to the top of the mountain. There's a few patches of snow left. One patch is where he lays. Most of his body is now showing, but just a little bit is still covered up. A man's walking by, and he notices something off to the left of him. He looks down, and he sees a man's boot coming up out of the snow. He freezes. He looks closer and notices that the man's body is partially covered in snow. He doesn't know what to do. All he can think about is that I came all this way to climb the top of the mountain. My trip ends tomorrow, and if I don't do this now, I'll never be able to do it. Somebody else will find this, he said. So he ignores the body and continues on. Man never gave it much thought. His ego got the best of him. He thought more of himself. The man seeing this, the ghost, the spirit of the man, gets really angry and stands in front of the man, tells him to go back, to tell somebody. But the man keeps walking and ignores the man. Just walks right through him. This makes the man furious. He will not allow him to go on. He tries whatever he can, but cannot do anything. The man is very, very in his head. He doesn't even remember his dreams. He doesn't pay any hints to the spiritual realm at all. All he does is think about his own ego and himself. He's a businessman. His whole life purpose is to make money and to do what he wishes to do. He all went through his whole life not helping people, just helping himself. He does have a family. He also has 2 kids and a wife at home, but he doesn't think of them much at all. He just thinks mostly of himself. He pays very little attention to his wife and his kids. this time, a few days pass, and the wolves come and drag the man's body into the bush and devour it. There's no trace of the man left except a few scattered pieces of clothes lost in the forest. They're all tore up. There's no way of ever really recognizing anything about him. Pieces of his bones are scattered and they get buried in time. There was many search parties brought out in the spring as well. They even went farther up the mountain, but nobody thought to go into the dead of the woods. Nobody goes in there. They just stick to the path. And there's so much woods, how would you ever find anybody in this vast space? They never found any parts of his body at all. So they just gave up. The man goes home to his wife and to his 2 kids and tells them about this glorious journey he went on and how he reached the top of the mountain and how beautiful the views were. All he did is talk about himself and how great he was. Never mentioning the man that he found to anyone. He even made himself forget. It wasn't important anyway. Somebody else would just find him. He was already dead, so what good would have been if I helped at all? The man got angry and angrier and angrier. He started to get so angry that it hurt when he went into the light, so he just started to come out only at nighttime. His wife's dreams turned angrier and angrier, because he would influence her dreams, and she would have nightmares over and over again. She was getting really tired. The man slipped farther and farther in the darkness. He even started to haunt his kids, and the other man's kids, and any kid that he could come across, because he started to like the fear that they would show. So much fear. He started to crave it every night until he slipped completely into darkness, and that's all he cared about, was feeding off other people's fears. And the old woman is now old. The woman is now old. She sits holding a pitcher. She still cries sometimes. She often wondered what happened, if he just get up and left. But all deep down inside she knows something horrible happened, but she never really understood or completely had closure. She didn't know if he was alive or dead. The nightmares were just dreams, she thought. They wouldn't be real. They're just dreams. The kids had nightmares as well, but they all got used to them. They're just dreams, remember, nothing more. The whole scene fades out. So it makes you look at yourself. When you come across something you know you need to do, even if it inconveniences you, maybe you should take the time to do it, to help in that situation, tell someone about the man. Maybe take some pictures and walk back and tell someone, because you never know how it's affecting somebody else. A simple gesture of kindness, even if it causes you to not do the thing that you wanted to do that day. It could change everything. The woman would have had closure. She would have known that her husband didn't leave her. She knew that he was dead. It still would be sad. The man would have been able to move on with the closure, but he could not because there was no closure. So he turned to darkness. This is an extreme situation, but it tells you how our actions can affect other people's lives. Anyway, I'm Joseph Bradley Fallon and Ross, and have a good day.